So I added little life rings. There are the stairs that I added. Um, I'm just showing you just generally how things look. I also later on did clip off those barrels a little bit, so they're a little bit shorter. Right there, they're still the long ones. But I did shorten them. I think they look a little better. They look less like stilettos. So now the next thing to work on is this part, which is the hanger door. So that's the entire interior part, and then here's the exterior part. And you see they're petals, and I'm terrified. But um, here's what I did this time, and it actually worked really well. I got my soft backing, and I got my little round tools, and I just started rolling up and pushing the paper in, and not just kind of letting it do its thing. And as I did this, and then I ended up changing sizes of my tool a couple of times, it started to automatically roll into a semicircle. This is the hanger door on the outside, and then that white part goes on the inside of this. But I just kept doing this kind of over and over, and I found that if I just put moderate pressure and just sort of pushed up on those petals from the base, I ended up getting an automatic curve, and the pieces actually started to kind of go together, which usually doesn't work for me. So um, that's, that's progress, okay? And you can see I painted the edges and stuff with my green paint before I did all this. But right now I'm kind of surprised. It's starting to already look half decent, which nice stuff never looks like that. So I took the next smaller one. So here's a smaller little round tool, and I started focusing up on the tip a little bit, but doing the same thing. And all I'm doing is getting it so that it thinks it knows where it wants to go, because we're going to do other stuff later and actually put these together. Basically, if you get them formed like this and you find out that the whole thing starts to roll together okay, then putting in glue worked really well. So anyway, that is that. And here's the last little bit. And see how each time I do it, it starts to get closer and closer. So, worked really well. So this piece fits inside like that. And that I've decided I'll put that piece on like so, and that will give this piece, the outer door, kind of a shape. So that's what I did. And now this is the interior, and that's just going to fit right in there like so. But it's got a bulkhead that goes around that gives sort of an outside shape that then puts that together. But you can see that that's kind of the plan, how it's going to end up going. This little piece here is the outside piece that's cut out. That's you gotta be real careful to cut that out, of course, because it's so thin. But what I decided to do was glue that onto that rim, and then work on getting that piece together a little bit more and gluing it together. Just again, it's almost ready. I put it together and it's almost ready to go. But glue that on, and then that'll give me some kind of structure, and then this piece fits right there when it's time. So you can see how it's going to go together anyway. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty intuitive actually after you kind of mull it around for a little bit. So I had to get this a little closer, so I pulled out my little petal shaping tool, and this actually worked okay. You can see I'm already pretty close just from using the forming. So I formed it just like I did with these little tools. That's about the right size. So I just started to sort of depress this down with that tool just to get it started. So it's got a general shape, a little hollow which to put my little piece in. But that piece originally, all I did was do just what I did with that outside doors, what I showed you, and then glued it together, so strip around the outside like that. And now I'm giving a little pressure and twisting, little pressure and twisting. So you're kind of pushing and twisting. And I keep just basically doing that. I keep playing around and pushing it in and pulling it out. And over time, like that right there, the petals are closer together than they were before. And I'm just very delicately holding on to things and trying to, like I said, twist it and move it around in a little circle and give it a little pressure. And each time I do that, those petals get closer. And I'm trying to get them close enough so they don't actually overlap. A few times I put in my dabbing tool that's about the right size just to sort of make it honest. But if you do this, and again, there's probably better ways to do it, but each time I push and twist, it got better. So what I ended up doing is getting as close as I could, and then I added some glue down on this end, and that pushed into all the little intricacies in between the petals, and then pushed it a few more times and twisted it, and then I just made sure I could get it out of that little tool, which you can, especially if you put something like um, baking soda or something like that, or cornstarch into it, and then it won't stick so much. Um, or put a piece of plastic wrap in there. But I basically just kept doing that, and look, it's already closer, and the pieces are kind of even, and they're almost going together in a very relatively small hole there. So at that point, I ended up playing around with the glue and dinking around with it and actually getting it together, and it turned out pretty nice. And I won't show you that part just because it's just a matter of adding the glue, letting it dry, and trying to make sure all those petals are closed. But there I am getting ready to put that on the edge. I did that before I played around, and it turned out okay. So here it is done. Now I had an adventure. See, the outside and the inside's all white like that, but that's actually paint. But you can see the petal turned out nice. But here's why. The outside I wanted to paint green because I knew that the outside door was going to go on there. I didn't want white showing through. And I proceeded to drop that piece I'm holding right into my green paint jar. And the whole thing was coated. It was horrible. I had to pull it out and let it go, and it was terrible. Let it dry, and I thought this isn't going to work in this. So then I had to paint the thing white on the inside, and the acrylic paint was making everything soft, and oh, it was not good. But I let it dry overnight, and so that was my end result. It should have been cleaner than that, but that's what I got. So next day, I then added that little piece to the hanger door. Because again, the hanger door I just added to that piece of cardboard, and then I just put this piece on, so that's the interior, and just make sure it's even and lines up edgewise where it's supposed to go. And then once that happens, you do the same thing with the top, the outside edge. What I decided to do, the hanger door, it came together well, and I took individual petals and put them together. But what I used this time was my Aleene's glue with water mixed with it. And so that went through to the cracks in here, and I just put them together individually like that. Just very slowly put them together. But using the liquefied glue seemed to work pretty well because I ended up with this. I mean, that's not bad for me. And I probably could burnish it a bit and make it a little bit better, but I'm pretty pleased with that. Um, it really looks pretty good, especially when it's on the model and you're not looking directly at it and all that. But it's going to go back here with a little dab of glue. What I'll do is I'll put you see the deck guns there? See, they are shorter. The little barrels are shorter. They look a little more in proportion. But that's going to go on there. I think what I'll do is glue the superstructure onto the deck and then add that piece on so that I can have the right angle and all that. And I think the pictures I've seen, it's just out, sort of straight out like that. It isn't at an angle unless they were in the midst of opening it. But it didn't seem to go back any further than a certain point. And this is just to show you when I put this all together. You can see I'll just go like that, and I'll glue it to the rear end there. And then you'll have the hanger door on there, and I'll have it open about like that. And then we'll have our crane that goes there, and then we'll build our airplane. It's really going to be cool. It's just such a neat thing. I got to build that Japanese sub now and see what that would look like. Anyway, moving along, and we'll see if we can finish this one up pretty quickly.